Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're turning up the heat and venturing into the world of tunnel kiln operators. You've been digging into some RoleCatcher excerpts on this, and honestly, so have I. Before we dive in, I'm really curious, what made you interested in this career path? What kind of hidden gems are you hoping we can unearth?
Well, what's interesting is that, most people don't really think about tunnel kiln operators very much, but we're surrounded by their work every day. Think about the durability of the tiles in your bathroom or the sleekness of your ceramic dinnerware. It all comes down to the precision and expertise of these operators.
Okay, so let's get a clear picture of what they actually do. RoleCatcher uses the phrase controlling preheating chambers and tunnel kilns, which sounds pretty technical. But then it also mentions observing gauges, adjusting valves, and even pulling loaded kiln cars. It almost sounds like conducting an orchestra, but with fire and clay.
It really is a hands-on role that demands both technical prowess and a keen eye for detail. And these aren't your average ovens. We're talking massive industrial kilns with all these different heating zones, each calibrated to achieve specific temperatures and timings. A tunnel kiln operator is essentially the maestro of this whole intricate process, ensuring that each and every single clay product is baked to perfection.
RoleCatcher mentions operations monitoring 6x6. Why is that skill so crucial in this world of kilns and clay?
Okay, so imagine this. You've got this kiln car loaded with hundreds of delicate ceramic tiles, and it's slowly moving through the tunnel kiln. Each zone has to be very carefully monitored because even the slightest temperature fluctuation or a tiny valve malfunction can completely ruin the entire batch. We're talking warped tiles, uneven glazes, tons of wasted material, and of course, lost revenue.
Talk about high-stakes baking. A keen eye and quick thinking are definitely essential. RoleCatcher also paints a very vivid picture of the work environment itself, describing it as potentially noisy, dusty, and requiring protective gear. It sounds like it takes a certain type of person to thrive in that setting.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely not your typical office job.
Yeah.
You're dealing with this extreme heat, the constant hum of machinery, and often you're on your feet for hours. But at the same time, it's also an environment that really fosters teamwork. Operators work closely with engineers, production supervisors, quality control personnel. It's a true collaboration from raw material to finished product.
It's fascinating how a job that seems so solitary, just you and the kiln, actually requires constant communication and coordination. Speaking of the kiln itself, I was surprised to learn that it's not just about making bricks. RoleCatcher highlights a whole range of clay products. They mention sewer pipes, mosaic tiles, even ceramic tiles.
Yeah, you're totally right. There's this common misconception that kilns are just for bricks, but it's just not true. Tunnel kiln operators work with such a huge variety of materials and products, each requiring a very specific firing process to achieve the desired properties. And this is where the artistry comes in.
Artistry. In a factory setting. I got to hear more about this.
Well, think about all the variation you see in ceramic tiles, like all the intricate patterns, the glossy finishes, the vibrant colors. Achieving those effects isn't just about the materials themselves, it's about the entire firing process. The operator needs to understand how different clays react to heat, how glazes melt and interact, how to manipulate the kiln's atmosphere to create certain effects. It's this amazing blend of science and art, precision, and creativity.
That's a perspective I honestly hadn't considered before. It sounds like there's a lot more to this role than I initially thought. RoleCatcher also mentions the physical demands of the job, which makes me wonder about the long-term career prospects.
That's a good point, especially in an industry that's embracing more and more automation. However, the demand for skilled tunnel kiln operators is actually projected to grow.
Really? Why is that? I guess I would have thought automation would reduce the need for human operators.
Yeah, it's a really common assumption. But here's the thing. While automated systems are great at handling routine tasks and monitoring, they don't have that human touch, the intuition, problem-solving skills, and adaptability that experienced operators bring to the table. Imagine a sensor detects a sudden temperature spike in the kiln. An automated system might just shut everything down, but a human operator with years of experience under their belt, they can actually assess the situation, identify the root cause, and often even implement a solution on the fly, which can end up saving the entire batch and keep production running without a hitch.
So it's not really about humans versus machines, but about humans and machines working together as a team.
You got it. Exactly. It's really this cool partnership. Machines are awesome at consistency and collecting tons of data, but they just don't have that nuanced judgment and creative problem solving that makes a truly great tunnel kiln operator. They're kind of like the guardians of quality, making sure all those little differences in temperature and timing result in these really durable, beautiful products.
That's a really good point. We do kind of take those things for granted, like the perfectly smooth tile on our kitchen backsplash or the strength of those clay pipes under our feet.
Mhm.
But there's this whole world of expertise behind all those everyday objects.
Yeah, for sure. And that expertise is something that's built up over time. RoleCatcher actually breaks down the whole career progression for a tunnel kiln operator, starting with the entry-level positions. And what I find super interesting is how much they emphasize mentorship and hands-on learning right from the very beginning.
That makes a lot of sense. It's one thing to sit and read about kiln temperatures and heating zones in a book, but it's a totally different thing to be standing next to an expert, feeling the heat, hearing the kiln, seeing how they troubleshoot problems in real time.
Exactly. It's those moments,
Uh-huh.
Observing and assisting these really experienced operators, that's where you start developing your own instincts. You start recognizing all the subtle cues, the almost hidden changes in how the kiln's running that might signal a problem or that something needs adjusting.
So it's more than just like following instructions from a manual. It's about developing this feel for the kiln, almost like an intuition.
Exactly. RoleCatcher uses the phrase gaining hands-on experience in a dynamic and collaborative environment. And that really sums it up perfectly. You're not just learning some technical skills from a book, you're immersing yourself in the whole world of kilns, absorbing knowledge from the people around you, and gradually building your own expertise.
Okay, so as you move up from like an entry-level role to a junior operator, what kind of changes can you expect? Are you given a lot more responsibility?
Oh, absolutely. RoleCatcher really highlights how junior operators are given more and more independent control over the kiln. They start making judgment calls based on what they're seeing, troubleshooting issues, and they're even given more responsibility for meeting those production targets. They might be put in charge of a specific product line and have to ensure the quality and consistency of those particular clay products.
That sounds like there's a real sense of ownership and accomplishment that comes with that level of responsibility. You're not
Yeah.
just following instructions anymore. You're making decisions that directly affect the final product.
You got it. And with that comes this much deeper understanding of the whole production process. You start collaborating more with the other departments, understanding what they need and what challenges they face. And you make sure that as the kiln operator, you're keeping everything running smoothly for everyone.
So it becomes this very collaborative role,
Yeah.
even though you might physically spend a lot of time alone with a kiln.
Exactly. And that collaboration just keeps growing as you reach the senior operator level. This is where all your experience and your knowledge really come into play. You're not just controlling the kiln at that point, you're optimizing the entire system. You're analyzing data, fine-tuning all the different parameters, and constantly looking for ways to improve efficiency and make sure the product is top-notch.
That honestly sounds super challenging, but incredibly rewarding at the same time. You're basically the kiln whisperer at that point. But let's back up for a sec. RoleCatcher also talks about the whole job hunting process, and they seem to really emphasize the importance of standing out from the competition. What kind of advice do they give for those who are thinking about a career as a tunnel kiln operator?
You're right. They have a whole section dedicated to something called Beat the Automated Recruiter, which sounds kind of scary, but it makes sense with how the job market is these days. With so many people applying for the same jobs and algorithms doing the first round of screening, it's super important to make sure your application stands out from the rest.
So how do you do that? What do they suggest?
They stress how important it is to have a tailored CV or resume. It has to speak directly to what that specific employer is looking for in that job posting. The days of using the same generic resume for every job are over. Instead, you need to focus on highlighting the skills and experiences that are most relevant to each specific role.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's about showing the hiring manager that you understand what they need and that you have the skills they're looking for.
Right. It's all about showing your value and why they should hire you. And it's not even just about what you say, but how you say it. RoleCatcher talks a lot about using really clear and concise language that both humans and those algorithms can understand.
Like almost like you have to speak two languages at once.
Uh,
For the hiring manager and one for the computer software.
Yeah, exactly. And RoleCatcher actually has some awesome tools to help you do just that. They have the CV resume builder that analyzes the job description and tells you what skills and keywords would be good to use. They even have something that scores your resume against what the job is asking for so you can see how well you match up.
That's amazing. It's like having your own personal career coach. But it sounds like it goes way beyond just the resume. Don't they also have interview prep tools?
They do, and they're incredibly detailed. They have this huge library of practice questions and answers, and they're all specific to different roles, including Tunnel Kiln Operator. That way you can familiarize yourself with the kinds of questions they might ask you and practice your answers beforehand.
Okay, so let's say you've nailed the resume, you've practiced all your answers, and now you're sitting across from the hiring manager. What kinds of questions would they ask for a tunnel kiln operator?
RoleCatcher gives some really good examples in their interview guide. They mention questions about your experience with different kilns, your understanding of the whole firing process, and how you'd maintain things like optimal temperature and pressure levels.
So they're really trying to understand your technical knowledge and how well you can solve problems on the fly.
Absolutely. They want to know that you can actually do the job, not just talk about doing it. They might even ask you to describe a time you had to deal with a really tough situation at work, how you decide what tasks are most important, and how you make sure you're keeping up with the latest industry trends and advancements.
So they're looking for someone who's not just technically skilled, but also good at figuring things out, adaptable, and someone who's committed to always learning.
You nailed it. And that's been the common theme I've noticed with all of these RoleCatcher resources. They really highlight how a successful tunnel kiln operator isn't just someone who pushes buttons. They're problem solvers. They work well in a team, and they never stop learning and improving their skills.
It's so cool how this deep dive has uncovered all these layers to what I thought was a pretty straightforward job. It's really clear that tunnel kiln operators are crucial in manufacturing. They're the ones making sure all the products we use every day are high quality and consistent.
Yeah, they're like the unsung heroes of manufacturing.
Okay.
They work so hard behind the scenes to make sure our homes and infrastructure are built to last.
And speaking of lasting, RoleCatcher spent some time talking about how the manufacturing industry is changing. They discuss the impact of all this new technology and automation and how it's affecting everyone, including tunnel kiln operators.
It's definitely a key point. With more and more automation coming into play, it makes you wonder about the future of these jobs. But what's so interesting is that RoleCatcher is surprisingly optimistic about the whole thing.
Really? That's interesting. What makes them so optimistic about it?
Well, they're optimistic because they see technology as something that helps, not hurts. It's not about replacing human operators. It's about giving them even more tools and creating new opportunities. Think about it for a second. We have all these advanced sensors now that can collect mountains of data on how the kiln is performing. But it's still the human operator who has to look at that data, figure out what it means, and then actually make the adjustments that make the whole process better.
So instead of being replaced by technology, it sounds like tunnel kiln operators are becoming even more important. They're like this hybrid role now that combines their technical know-how with data analysis and process optimization, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're like kiln conductors and data scientists all rolled into one, which makes them super valuable to employers. And this is where RoleCatcher's whole take on career progression gets really cool. They point out how these experienced operators can move into things like supervisory roles, production management, or even specialize in areas like quality control or process engineering.
Wow, so there's some real potential for growth and specialization in this field, especially for those who are comfortable with both the hands-on stuff and all these new technologies.
Absolutely. And it really speaks to what's happening in manufacturing in general. There's a huge demand for people who are skilled, adaptable, and always learning. So yeah, some of those more basic tasks might become automated, but the need for people who can manage those systems, troubleshoot problems, and really optimize the whole process is only going to keep growing.
That's great to hear for anyone thinking about this as a career. But let's be real for a sec. The job market can feel like a total maze sometimes, especially with all these automated recruiters that RoleCatcher talks about. I thought their advice on using technology to your advantage was super helpful.
For sure. And the cool thing is that RoleCatcher practices what they preach by giving you these really practical tools that can help you navigate this whole new world. Like their CV resume builder, it doesn't just suggest some random skills, it actually helps you customize your entire CV to that specific job posting. So it's more likely to get noticed by both human recruiters and those algorithms.
It's like having a secret weapon for your job search.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that they have a lot more than just resumes. What other kinds of tools do they have?
They have this really cool AI-powered interview prep feature. You can actually practice your interview answers, and it'll give you feedback on your delivery, how you're holding yourself, even the words you're using.
That's amazing. It's like having a personal interview coach right there on your phone. But I can imagine that for someone who's just starting to think about all this, it can feel kind of overwhelming. Where do you even begin?
That's where RoleCatcher really stands out. They want to make sure everyone has access to this information, and they have tons of free resources, career guides, skill guides, interview guides, all designed to make things super clear and empower job seekers. They even have this massive database of employers so you can do your research on different companies, figure out what they're looking for, and really tailor your application to them.
Wow, so they've really thought of everything.
Pretty much. And the best part is they're always coming up with new stuff, adding new features and tools to help job seekers stay ahead of the game.
It's awesome to see how technology can be such a powerful force for good. It's making this information and these opportunities available to everyone. So if you're feeling lost or overwhelmed by the whole job search thing, RoleCatcher sounds like an amazing place to start.
Totally. It doesn't matter if you're just starting out trying to switch careers or even if you're already established and just want to see what else is out there. RoleCatcher has everything you need to succeed.
Well, there you have it, a deep dive into the fascinating world of tunnel kiln operators, a job that's definitely hotter than most. It's a career that requires precision, creativity, and a real passion for the craft. And as we've seen, it's a field with a bright future, especially for those who embrace technology and use it to their advantage.
I think the coolest thing about this deep dive was how it challenged our initial impressions. It just goes to show that there's always more to a job than you might think. And by digging a little deeper, asking the right questions, and staying curious, we can find some hidden gems in the most unexpected places.
And that's what the deep dive is all about. Just remember, the exploration doesn't have to end here. Stay curious, keep looking for those aha moments, and never stop learning. Until next time, happy exploring.